Not all your content is going to be visual, is it? At some point, we'll have to do a little bit more than do pretty charts and that. How can we start? What is there that's in the platform, and what can we use? Alright everyone, welcome along. Summit for the weekend. Thought we'd kind of finish this piece off, yeah, because it's kind of, we need to get through the rest of it and then I think draw a line and we'll move on. The bit we want to cover is around getting more out of your reports than just the charts that we've got. Yeah. So, I mean, you're used to these charts here. Yeah. If we zoom in on this one, nice, pretty picture. It's a standard chart. That's great. Okay. More stuff is coming out in terms of being able to use conditional formatting, all sorts of things like that to get the colors to emphasize the bits you want to emphasize. But there's more to it, isn't there? And one of the things that we've used here is we've got this one, this visual. With this visual here, and if we zoom in on it, you can see it's text-based, right? So we can see we've got some text, we've got some numbers, right? There's a lot of stuff you can do with these, and it takes a long time, and it's well worth having a look at playing with them, getting the values best, getting the best values out of them, really starting to get to grips with how it's working, and especially how it filters across when you cross highlight. So if we came out of here and if we picked to say restaurants, we'd see it would update the text message accordingly. The terms that people put, the narrative that goes with the visual can often shape a lot of that. And if we get this right and we do things the right way, we can shape a lot of that narrative and have that built in. Well, why would you want to go elsewhere? Why am I cutting this out and putting it as a PDF or something else when we can have the meeting, we can go in and say, right, let's have a look at this, because we're going to be saying, oh, right, Ross, what's going on in Birmingham? It's saying here that Birmingham's got the highest businesses. So Birmingham, which area is that in? So we can zoom in on Birmingham, we can see a little bit more. We could zoom in and we could look and see what's happening with it. Okay, suddenly the data, the narrative, the discussion is all being led by the text, by the interactions, by the Power BI page. Once your meetings switch over to this, right, your business moves forward. One of the things I was talking about, even just far too many things we talk about, right? I do work, right? We were saying that the idea of having different numbers or the risk of having different platforms in service, in use, right, is that people start to argue about whose number's right. And the reality is that the numbers aren't relevant, right? And that's, right? What these numbers should show you or should direct you to do is what's important, isn't it? It's not actually what the number is, it's the activity that's driven. So these are to support a business. Food hygiene reports, probably not, but if we could imagine this was our shops, our retail environment and how they're doing, we'd know, it's, what do we need to do? What's the problem? And it wouldn't matter if, like, my metric was £20 out compared to Steve's metric or Johnny's metric or somebody else's. But if that was the case, I could almost guarantee the questions that would come back with, well, why is it out? Why is his better than the other? Whose is right? And that isn't moving our business forward, is it? That's not furthering our business goals. So when we start to say, right, get everyone in the same platform, it's about that, isn't it? Look, what can we do? So text measures like that go a long way, right? This is the smart narrative visual. You can experiment with it. You can put it in. You can do a lot of configuration yourself, right? Call in metrics. You can do with the values piece here. You can start to add, subtract, all sorts of other calculations within it. Effectively, it's like a Q&A side though. So explore the Q&A side first would be what I would say. But you can get it to write its own. This is just the default one that came when I hit the button. You'll have different mileage with it, but have a look, have a play. Give me my advice. The other thing that can be very good is the key influences here. Okay, so in this case, if we're looking at the key influences, so what influences a rating value, we can say, oh, I want to know what causes our places to get a rating of 3, for example. Yeah, and we can see what causes it. So 84% of them have got a management is generally satisfactory. So we can look and knowing what's going on in the way that scoring goes. So it's got your management, your hygiene, and other things. Right? Management, hygiene, structure, and yeah, so confidence management, the structure, the hygiene. The interesting one down here is where the local authority is Lambeth. So clearly there's something going on with Lambeth, with the Wirral as well, down there, that they're 3 times more likely. So something's definitely going on. If we were to click on there, you could see, here we go, Wirral, it's pretty common. You know, we click on Lambeth, it's pretty common, okay? And because of the way these visuals work, okay, it starts to drive the intensity of the questioning in a different way. So we've got the hygiene, the management, and the structure, but then we've got some things around, like it's a takeaway or sandwich shop. So clearly, takeaways and sandwich shops are a bit lower in general than a restaurant, maybe. And the question, you might ask, well, why? What's the problem? Some of these things are to do with that they don't have adequate covering for the sandwiches or things like that I've heard. But it is remarkable that this very quickly allows you to start to segment up your data and see. So we can see here very clearly that takeaways and sandwich shops far and above the others in terms of the numbers that are at the 3 rating. You can also look at segments by it. So if we look at segments, so what's this? This is a big segment with 10%, 10.7% chance of it. 10.7% of the rating values are 3, 5 percentage points, yeah? So where the management is generally satisfactory and structure is not generally satisfactory. So there's potentially something there, that management being satisfactory, but structure can become more of an issue, that there could be issues with the structure. And the nice thing with this and the way it works is it encourages you to look at your data in ways that you potentially wouldn't. Okay? So not all the insights that you're going to get out of the insight-based analytics pieces, yeah, so these are like machine learning light things, are going to be of use to you. But the point is that it's making you think about your data in a different way, isn't it? That's the important thing. Once you start to think about your data in a different way, that's the important thing. Another thing to remember is be careful about who you present key influencers to. They need a lot of support. You don't want just somebody from senior management looking at it blind and going, oh, this is it, because it probably isn't, right? It's worth noting that if we look at these and see, the likelihood of rating value 5 is increased by 2 times if the hygiene is very good, management is very good, structure is very good, okay? And we then see it coming down. Okay? Interestingly, we've got a local authority down there tendering that there's something going on with that's helping it. And we can sort it by the impact, we can sort it by the count. Okay? Again, important ways that are different to view your data. The last one I want to show you is a little bit different, okay? So when we come into here, right, the decomposition tree. Now, what we've got here is we've got a look where it's saying, right, with all the businesses, right, 486,000 businesses. But how is that broken down? So we just sorted this by business type initially, okay? Now, we could turn around and say, well, I want to see it by local authority name, I want to see it by high or low value, okay? In this case, we've only got 3 bits of information in it, okay? We see over here, we've got the business type and the local authority name. There's nothing too much in that, right? But if we came here and we said, right, where are most of our restaurants? We'd go the high value. We'd see by local authority, we're looking at Westminster with 2,600. That's a lot of restaurants to have in one little area, isn't it? Okay, and we see that goes up and it goes down. The nice thing with a decomposition tree is it allows you to explore your data. So if we went to retailer supermarkets, See that Brent has the most. Now, off the top of my head, I might not have thought, oh, Brent would do that. We could look at other catering premises and see, where's that? Birmingham. Ah, okay, takeaway sandwich shops, pubs, Durham. That was one I wasn't expecting, Durham, I have to say, for the pubs, bars, and nightclubs. Okay, but you start to piece together what is happening and where, and this is again things that you would not have expected. And depending on your data, if you think through this for product lines, for all sorts of things, you could put different metrics in here. So we could put our sales, total sales down. Where do we get the most sales from? Is it by region? Is it by something? Is it by something else? And start to piece it together. And you could use the highest or lowest values that come with as an option, as an automated option, or you can set it to be able to pick a particular column, depending on your analysis. So you might say, well, I want to know my sales, but I want to know by country first. How it'll spread by country or by region. Okay. And then you might say, well, what product line is doing the worst in any particular region? So the lowest value. And it would then show you the product line that's doing the worst. And you might say, well, are we going to cancel that product line? Are we going to do something else with that product line? But the quick and easy analysis that people get from a decomposition tree will support that and will enable you to really push your analysis further and to understand more about what it is that is going on across your environment and across your estates. What do you reckon then? Okay, we've covered some of the AI visuals that exist within the Power BI platform at the moment. Okay? The smart narrative is great for bringing in text. Before the smart narrative, I've written many measures where you're writing the long measure where you've got text and then numbers and then you put logic sampling into it to work out what to put next. And you can get some pretty good results out of it. What the smart narrative visual allows you to do as well is it allows you to highlight the numbers or the measures that you want. So you even have a different font size, have it bold, have it italic, whatever you want to do, you can do that. You can also tailor it to actually put more in that you want to put in, depending on what your report needs to show. Everything comes down to what you do with Power BI. So it's about the modeling and how you model and structure it. Where the modeling really comes into its own, though, is as you get into these further, is not just with the smart narrative visual, but with the key influences, because that's all about the model. What does the model see? Okay? And you'll find that within Power BI, within the Power Platform, you've got options for quick insights throughout. And these will give you a good feeling for how well your key influences, your decomposition tree, are going to perform. So if you hit key insights or show me the insights about my data set and it goes, yeah, ain't much, right? Chances are your data model's not good enough for it. If your data model's good and it comes back and says, oh, here's a load of insights, right? Some of them will be good, some of them will be rubbish. Like, hey, you've got next to no sales on a Sunday for a shop. Well, we kind of knew it was our quietest day. Not telling me anything I didn't know. It might be something else. It's getting to the point, though, where somebody else is looking at your data, because that's what you want to get to, really. That's where the insights come. The insights don't come from somebody who's like up to their neck in the data, day in, day out, looking at the data, day in, day out, coming up with the same tired old arguments day in, day out. Because I'd love to say it doesn't happen that way, but I know it does. Like, I get set in my ways. Oh, no, it's this way, right? And I'm not necessarily being the most scientific about it. The key influences is just that. It's like that third person is looking at it who doesn't have any vested interest in your data. And if they're coming back and going, it might be something to look at. It might not be worth it. It might be something to look at. Do you remember what we were talking about with bias and being prepared to reevaluate? It's something to reevaluate, isn't it? Okay. The same goes for the decomposition tree. The decomposition tree, though, just needs that little bit more work, that little bit more effort. Because as you put more and more stuff into it and you start going, what's the more and less important? You need to be able to apply that little bit of grey matter to say, well, Like, is colour important for this? Probably is, but you know, you've got to look at it, haven't you? It's again, it's something where somebody else is looking, or something else is looking at your data, and based on correlations alone, is implying or suggesting. It's not implying; it is suggesting. Is this something that's relevant? If it is, you've learned something more. If it isn't, you've learned something more because you know, well, it's not that, right? And the more we know, do you know what? The more we know. So come back next week. Yeah, what we're going to start doing is we're going to start building the new data set. Right, I've been experimenting and playing with my new pen that I've got and stuff like that because I want to start doing a bit more interactive and trying to get the drawing on the page and stuff like that. Right, there's so much that I want to bring to the channel to really help make it more interactive and get you guys more involved and show you more about what goes on in a Power BI consultancy and in the world of Power BI work. Right? Part of the problem I've got is, I think like the rest of the world, we're starting to try and come back from COVID. So I am flat out at the moment trying to catch up on work that's been not done for a year. But as a result, there'll be less videos, but I want to make them more interactive and do more with them. So stick with us, carry on, keep learning, keep interacting, tell us what you want, and we'll try and bring it through. Next week, we're going to start with the parkruns. We're going to start trying to bring in a parkrun data set, which they said it's not something you should be doing. I don't know. I'll give it a go, eh? Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Take care. Ta-da.